November 2009. John Jones, aged 26, visited his parents. All relatives were gathered to celebrate Thanksgiving. His younger brother suggested that they remember the old days when they explored caves and go down into one of them. He didn't think about it for long because it was one of his favorite activities as a child. So he, together with his brother who is 3 years younger and a few other friends, set out for Nutty Putty Cave. It was a very popular place among speleologists. So November 24th, around 8 o'clock in the evening, John and his brother, a few friends and relatives who wanted to join them, entered this cave. They all followed the section called the Big Slide. But it didn't seem like enough of a challenge to John. Although he hasn't done that in a long time, he and his brother decided to separate from the group and try to overcome the most difficult section of the cave, known as the birth canal. So John and his brother started moving towards that section. They had a map with them, which they tried to follow as best they could. John stops at a narrow opening that John thinks leads to the birth canal. When John was growing up in this area, he and his friends often explored various caves, so when he saw this opening, he didn't think too much, and somehow he got into it. John is pushing himself deeper and deeper. The cave is getting narrower and narrower, but John believes that this section of the tunnel leads to the birth canal, and they should soon reach a wider section. So he crawls on and on. The cave has become very narrow, but he sees in front of him that further down the cave seems to turn sharply downwards. He was sure he would finally reach a wider section so he could slip through the narrow section. He exhaled all the air from his lungs, but when he inhales again, it seems to get stuck. But then, he saw what was at the end of the tunnel. It's a dead end. Then John realizes that it really isn't the birth canal. It was an unmarked part of the cave. John realizes that he's stuck and starts calling for his brother. Not to mention, it's now practically upside down. John calls out to his brother, who also gets stuck as he approaches him. From the place where he can barely see his brother in the tunnel, he understands that his brother is in a very bad situation. So he got out of this tunnel little by little and called for help. John got stuck so deep that it took as long as 3.5 hours until the first rescuers reached him. Susie Matolo was the first rescuer to reach John. John was worried. He begged to get him out of there as soon as possible. Susie assured John that everything would be fine, that he would be pulled soon. But when she takes a closer look at where John gets stuck, she realizes that it might take a while. Just attaching systems that can pull you out can take several hours, and attaching the ropes to his legs may take even more time, maybe even a few days. But John has very little time. The human body is adapted to being upright. Gravity helps your heart pump blood throughout your body. When you're upside down, blood rushes to your brain, and your heart can't pump blood out of your brain fast enough, and that eventually leads to death. When the paramedics saw that John was upside down, they informed family members and doctors that John had 8 to 10 hours to live. The rescuers tried everything to get him out. They attached ropes to his legs and tried to pull him out, but it didn't work. They attached traction systems, which barely held on to the rock. It took too long to keep fixing the systems, and it hardly moved. They tried to widen the cave with the help of a crowbar and a pickaxe, but all of their attempts to get him out were taking a very long time, and John's time was running out. As the rescuers did everything they could, they noticed that they could hear gurgling sounds in John's breathing. This indicated that more and more fluid was in his lungs, and he only had a few hours left. But at one point, they finally managed to lift John about 6 inches. But then, the ropes slip and he falls back down. And then they faced a dilemma. No matter what systems they use to get John out, because of the angle this cave will turn, John's legs are in a very bad position. They cannot bend so that you can pull them out. They would have to break his legs to get him out of this cave. As John's breathing got harder and he stops responding to rescuers, they realized if they're going to break his legs, his body would experience such a shock that he would die instantly. So they realized that they couldn't get him out, and he would die here. 27 hours after John got stuck, he showed no signs of life, and it was announced that he had died. John was 26 years old, a medical student. He left his wife and 1-year-old daughter. His wife gave birth to their second child a few months later after such a tragic death. Nutty Putty Cave was cemented. John's body remains in this cave to this day.